Okay. All right. So we're here with Dr. Ilia Stambler, who is a longevity historian and currently heads the ILA, International Longevity Alliance. And if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and what you have done for the longevity advocacy.
You said pretty much most of it. I'm an historian of life extension research and social implications. That's my book, History of Life Extensionism in the 20th Century. Basically, it covers not just the 20th century, but the whole history. And this is my other book, Longevity Promotion, Multidisciplinary Perspectives, where I try to talk about longevity history and philosophy and advocacy and science, all in one little volume. That's my interest. I try to promote longevity research and development to extend health and longevity. I'm also an activist in several organizations like International Longevity Alliance, International Society on Aging and Disease, Global Health and Policy Institute, here in Israel, organization called the Movement for Longevity and Quality of Life. So everywhere where I can, I try to to advocate for longevity research. That's my main task.
All right. And have you been following any particular thread of research recently, like, or is it a general?
Yeah. If you look at my book, it has a chapter on some of the directions in longevity research, about 18 directions. All you have is analytics and an idea, and antioxidants and everything. But now I'm more interested in what's going on with COVID. As you know, COVID mostly affects older people. So the main focus also in advocacy is to see how we can improve the underlying resilience, the underlying immunity of all the people. Because if COVID can teach us anything, if we really want to cope with it, we really need to enhance immunity and resilience. So that's what we've been trying to advocate. To publish the paper with some of the leading researchers of aging, like Nir Barzilai and Philippe Sierra, called Geroscience in the Age of COVID-19, published in Aging and Disease. And we try to, again, advocate that to enhance the research of aging, specifically immunosenescence, to search ways to improve immunosenescence, to improve resilience and immune response. So that's the main direction I've been following for the past 7 months that we have been all immersed in this issue.
Has COVID sped up longevity research or slowed it down, you think?
It's a great question. I think it increased the motivation, and at least among the longevity researchers and advocates, to really get into it. But in terms of actual impact, I don't see it happening. From logic, you would think everybody see that it's a problem of all the people. So let's all just get into to trying to improve the aging process. No, it's not happening. For some reasons, it's still the same mechanisms that have been delaying our involvement with aging. Before, we had all the arguments before, like we always said that aging is the main risk factor for all chronic disease like Alzheimer's and heart disease and diabetes. That wasn't scary enough. So now everybody's scared from COVID, and it's also affected by aging, but no, people are also not so much interested in aging. But still, at least in the longevity movement, in the longevity community, there is more interest. I don't see any great impact on policymakers. And also, in terms of actual research, maybe people have more motivation, but it's more difficult to do the actual research. It's it's difficult to recruit subjects. It's difficult to give them treatments. So I see a major setback for aging research. But at least that motivation, if we gather it, after this thing is more or less over or subsides, at least we can use this motivation to move at increased speed with actual research.
Do you think that we're past the age of false hopes? And if yes, why is this time different?
Well, that's another great question. There's never time for false hopes. We shouldn't have false hopes, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't have hopes. So it's definitely still a time for hopes. it's still possible to intervene into aging processes. There is no law of nature that prevents intervention into aging. It prevents healthy life extension. And there are great proofs of principle that it is possible on animal models, on humans. So we should definitely lose hope to succeed in those interventions. If somebody was hoping to get radical life extension, anytime soon, he should live those hopes a long time ago. But for the long term, we can still hope, we can still dream. But for now, it's definitely still possible to advance aging research to a considerable degree.
Let's see here. So historically, have major developments been speeding up and happening faster than they used to?
Yeah, definitely. As an historian, you see that this research has been going for thousands of years. In the last century, in the 20th century, it's been really speeding up. And we can see that it's speeding up, maybe not in terms of actual drugs that get into the market, but in terms of general involvement. Even 15 years ago, I can testify that, not many people talked about it. Not many people were involved in aging research and aging advocacy. Now it's everywhere. The laboratories and the institutions that never thought about aging, would never raise this agenda. Starting aging research centers. So it's all over the globe. So definitely in this regard, it's speeding up, and hopefully it will speed it up fast enough, to get treatments as well. So yeah, the involvement is speeding up, but the treatments are not getting fast enough. It's never fast enough, it's always too late. But I hope it will be quicker than it is now.
So what can the longevity community do to help speed up life extension research and progress?
Great. So as always, we just need to be involved. As far as I can observe, that even the longevity community is not active enough. Even in this period, we've been starting all kinds of petitions, and campaigns, and now we have the longevity month of October. I don't see a great many longevity activists, go up in arms, and distributing information everywhere and sharing in massive numbers. So if we really want some change, the longevity community needs to be more involved, more active, at least on the level of some political movements. Our goal, our cause is much more important than any political cause. And if we compare our activity with some political movements, there's no comparison. So yeah, we should be more active, more involved, and just become more interested in this topic, research more, study more. Now probably is a good time, even if your school is closed, even if you can't do actual research, you can at least study this topic deeply. There's a lot of information on the internet or in books. If there's some time to spend, you should really dedicate it to researching aging.
Before I go on, anybody else have any questions? There's quite a few people in the lobby now. Just opening up.
Yeah.
Sure. So one, just kind of a very broad general question. When you're advocating for longevity in general, what are the biggest social barriers you tend to encounter? I think a lot of people here are very interested in a lot of the scientific possibilities, but a lot of your work is in history and social advocacy. What kind of pushback do you tend to run into?
An excellent question. Yes, a lot of people are doing science, so I prefer not to talk about the hard science, what people should eat and then drink and to run, but about the actual advocacy, how to get more research done, how to get more funding for this research, how to get it more socially accepted. That's my area of activity, my main area of activity. I'm a little bit involved in science as well, but you cannot do everything, so you have to focus on something. So yes, my main focus is advocacy, and of course we know all those psychological barriers. Aging is probably one of the most suppressed areas in our psyche, in our mind. People who do anything not to touch aging because it's too scary. It's all of us, but it's too scary, to get to face directly. And that's probably one of the main reasons that we don't get as much research as we hope for. And to this, all kinds of rationalizations become attached, that it's actually social undesirable, that will lead to inequality and overpopulation and the loss of meaning, all the usual arguments that every longevity activist knows. But the main problem, I think, is this deep reluctance to face our aging, and then that's a serious problem. That's really something that we, as longevity advocates, we ourselves are not exactly on good terms with it. So we can understand why the rest of the population is not so much on board. But it's a slow process. We really breaking those taboos. Once again, 15 years ago, you wouldn't even talk about aging. Aging was completely outlandish subject for many people. But now it's getting more and more open, more and more discussed. But one of the main problems I face, in advocacy, even in the longevity community, is that, okay, people understand that the aging is a big problem, and we should fight it, and we should research it, try to develop treatments against it, but they still don't do anything. I'm sorry to say, even some of the hardcore longevity activists, they understand everything, everything, follow all the research when it comes, to sign the petition or organize an event, or even write a paper, and nothing happens. So it's another barrier. It's a serious one, even in our community, to go from understanding to action. It's not a trivial move from passive understanding to activity. So I hope more of this is done. Before we start accusing the general population, why aren't they so supportive of us? We should look at ourselves and see how we can become more active, more involved.
Right. Yeah. Oh.
I have a question.
Yes.
Sure.
Has there been any like popular culture media, like a film or other form of media, which has caused a disproportionate amount of change in interest?
I don't think any single event or movie or some sort of massive campaign that's making a change, but I think a lot of incremental changes everywhere, and it's on a massive scale. People who never thought about aging all over the globe, in countries that, once again, 15 years ago, I'll compare with 15 years ago, because it's when the first sites, longevity sites were starting, like Immortality Institute, things like that. So back then, there was some talk in the United States, not much anywhere else. Now, all over the globe, there are movements, there are organizations, and bit by bit, it's seeping in, it's building up. So a lot of these incremental small changes are building into mass movement. I can't name any single, massive public relations move that's causing much of a change. It may come yet, but I'm not holding my breath for it. I'm more relying on those small changes, like this meeting and the thousands of other meetings that are taking place at this time.
Is there any particular technology or methodology that you think is closer to producing a result than a lot of others? Is there anything that's like on the radar for you?
Once again, it's a question that many people ask. Where should I invest my money? I can't tell you exactly. There's thousands of approaches going on at the same time, and probably there'll be synergy. There'll probably not be any specific approach, but there probably some kind of convergence of different approaches from different fields, from physics, from biology, from chemistry. So I'm actually in favor of spreading the net, laying the eggs in all the baskets possible, not betting on any specific. We just need to set this general goal and let people compete for its achievement.
In that vein, is there such a thing as a regenerative medicine index?
There is such a thing as regenerative medicine, obviously, but about indexes, no, it's a big problem. Another big problem in the field that we don't really have any metrics, any reliable metrics or consensus or grid metrics for the field that we can say, okay, that's what aging is. That's how we measure it. That's how we measure the effect of interventions. So if you saw our conference a couple of weeks ago on October 1st, that was exactly the topic. How do we provide reliable metrics of aging, not just to predict age-related disease, but also to measure interventions, to measure the success of interventions? It's a very undeveloped area. And part of it is, of course, the regenerative index, or whatever you call it, how well the organism regenerates, probably what's the amount of stem cell populations, or what's the resilience, the speed of recovery. All this can be done, but there's no standardized measure of aging or regeneration or resilience. So that's also a huge area of work. So if somebody asks me what should we do as the community, as advocates, beside the searching for things that we can eat or drink, or take a drug, we should also look for things that we can measure. And I'm also not given any concrete metrics right now, but that's something that we should all research, not just the drugs we can take, but also the metrics we can use to check our status.
Do you think that having a concrete metric will spur a larger volume of research?
Yes, definitely, because we'll have some baseline. If you go to a regulator, there were some attempts. If you go to a regulator, they'll ask, okay, you want to treat aging? How are we going to show that the treatment actually works on aging? What's the metric of aging? What's show me the money. Show me the actual measurable effect. Without it, there's no way we can advance in treatments. A lot of people think about treatments. Should we take this drug or other? We should really think in terms of metrics. What kind of metrics we can use to prove the effect.
Do you think that the current hallmarks of aging are sufficient?
No, I don't think so, because they all basically on the cellular level, on the molecular level, but aging is much more complex. It's also on the general regulatory level, on the whole body level, and these hallmarks basically don't address this level. But as the building blocks, it's important. You don't build a building from thin air. You build it from bricks. So those hallmarks are kind of bricks, but we also need to think of the superstructure of the actual building or the whole organism.
What role do you see for a measure like disability adjusted life years, or DALYs for short?
Yes, also an important measure. Once again, as a part of the general effort to provide metrics, I wish more even mainstream physician measured it. It's not even on the radar of many clinicians. The things like frailty. So that's what we're also trying to advocate, that people measure some of the basic stuff even before going to some sophisticated biomarkers of aging. Just measure frailty, things you can check in a couple of minutes. It will be also a great step forward. So definitely a part of evaluation process. Yes.
Any other questions
Out of curiosity, what has working the policy been like? It seems like you were involved with quite a number of quite a number of organizations, actually. Like where people are receptive, where governments particularly interested in this area of research?
You know what? You'll be surprised. Everybody's interested, but as I said, same for the advocacy community, for the longevity advocacy community. You're interested. All you say is correct. Aging very important. You have to intervene into aging. But when it comes to actual action, nothing is done. People have other agendas. So it's same with the government. They listen to you, they understand you, they agree with you. But when it comes to action, it's not going far. Once again, they don't see much public support. How many people are here? 9 people. The politicians are going to be impressed by 9 people, probably by 9 million people at the best case. So if we really succeed in building up our movement, then we'll have a better response from politicians. Otherwise, they'll just move to other agendas when they do see the public interest. But generally, they're actually receptive, and they understand. They actually understand that they are themselves aging, and they know that they would be interested in such technology. But there were some successes. Here in Israel, we're actually able to include this topic of promoting health and longevity, prevention of age-related diseases into the National Master Plan on Aging. There were some calls for research proposals following our advocacy. So these are some of the concrete achievements that we were able to do. Still, the funds are not so great, but still it's a good encouragement. Still, it's a proof of principle that it is possible to have some effect of advocacy.
Do you think that the field is really fragmented in terms of like the number of advocacy groups that are out there right now? It's like that there may be too many.
I think there's too few actually, but there's definitely fragmentation. Everybody is for himself or herself. There's no common. Maybe it's not such a bad thing. We don't want to be a kind of a marching movement, like that we all go with flags and shout some slogans. But yeah, that would be good. That there, on the one hand, there will be multiplicity of organizations, of approaches. On the other hand, there will be more coordination, more cooperation. I must say the life extension also great on cooperation. Everybody is trying to advance his own or own agenda, so it could be a problem. But once again, it's pros and cons. On the one hand, it's a good thing. Everybody is creative, everybody is independent, free thinker. We really don't want a massive army of people marching on the streets, but more thinking individuals. But on the other hand, it would be great to increase cooperation. So yes and yes, we do need more organizations, more different organizations, but also more cooperation, more joint actions. Yes.
What sort of policy changes would you like to see in place to hopefully, for the longevity research, particularly in different communities outside of the US?
Yes, definitely. All the policy changes we want are published. For example, back in 2015, we published a policy position paper called "The Critical Need to Promote Research on Aging to Improve Health and Longevity." It was published on behalf of the International Society on Aging and Disease, translated to 12 languages, submitted to several governments, quoted 150 times in scientific literature. So it's all written there. It's increasing funding. It's more incentives, like even building, like creating the metrics, the standardized metrics for aging, and more institutional support. Basically, more institutions, more organizations should be involved. It's all written down, but we really need to make more visible, to make it more supported. Not many people here heard about those policies, so yeah, please you can see those documents and support them.
Any other questions?
Is there an area of research that you think is the most promising?
Aaron already asked. No, I don't think so. I think that we really need to spread our net to really work for synergies. I'm not betting on any specific area. I'm betting on the synergy. So all the kinds of areas that are ostensibly not connected to each other, if they come together, they could be a boost or some unexpected development. So the way we can promote all of them is through calls for research proposals. For example, if we issue general calls for research proposals on interventions in aging, on preventive interventions against multimorbidity, on biomarkers of aging, that all kinds of approaches come together. People begin to compete, people begin to seek collaborators. So I'm for this kind of amorphous, but at the same time, a general approach. So No, I'm not betting on the analytics or AI or whatever you have. I'm betting on greater interest in longevity science and more synergies, more cooperations.
For the International Longevity Alliance, the ILA, what percentage of their time over the past couple months has been devoted to COVID compared to everything else?
Actually, a lot of time was devoted to COVID in April, March, when this you're more closely involved than others. When we published this paper on the effects of stem cells against COVID, which basically works on the aging process, on immunosenescence, can calm down the cytokine storm. So back in April, we did a lot of focus on this, published in a lot of newspapers, advocated this particular paper and its ramifications. But now it's less. Still, for example, I personally published a paper in the Jerusalem Post recently on aging-related COVID treatments, but still not enough of it. Now we focus still like we did back in last year and the years before on general advocacy against aging. So, for example, as you know, there's the longevity months. October is the longevity month that we've been promoting for 7 years since 2013. Hundreds of events were held in dozens of organizations in dozens of countries. The high point was back in 2015 when events were held in 40 countries. Now it's a little slower, but still many online meetings are being organized, including this one. So I would encourage more people to organize meetings, to spread information on this month. And we also have a special campaign and even some money, for the best longevity activism event. If somebody writes a song or creates a movie or whatever, let's be creative. So during this month, so people are welcome to submit their proposals. You win some money for longevity activism, $3,000, the first prize. So that's basically our main focus now as International Longevity Alliance.
Have there been any historical efforts to do multitherapeutics? So that is therapies that attack multiple different mechanisms of aging?
Always. If you ask historically, always, people always did some physical exercise and some nutrition, and at the same time tried some therapeutics, even, hormone therapy back in the beginning of the 20th century. So you cannot do otherwise. You cannot just, do some specific intervention and forget everything else, all the lifestyle and all the other factors. In aging, you have to be holistic. You cannot just focus on some people try, some people try to be reductionists. It never works. You cannot separate from other interventions. But yeah, there are also multi-drug approaches, even in animal models. Still not enough of them, but still there are some tries.
Is there a link online somewhere for the contest you're talking about?
Yes, actually, I already copied it, and I'm going to paste it. See, I'm prepared. So yeah, you can submit this meeting or any other activities you do, or anything, the report or anything, any ideas you have. Actually, we try to encourage as many people to submit. Of course, not everybody will win. We only have 2 prizes. The first prize is 3,000. The second is 1,000. But if we have many submissions, it will only boost longevity activism. That's our main goal.
Awesome. Any other questions?
Was there a Civic Longevity event that was very successful at getting, I suppose, people engaged in this research?
Yes. So first of all, The longevity months has been quite successful. Once again, it's been run for 7 years with hundreds of events, promotions in many countries. So as an ongoing effort, if you ask, was there any effect on policy? From this one, no, but there were effects from other of our actions. For example, back in 2017, we did a massive campaign with the WHO. Back then, WHO didn't include aging as a part of its work program. They issued a draft of work program until 2023, and aging was not in it, not in any form, not a word about aging. So organizations like ILA, International Society on Aging and Disease, and actually hundreds of organizations started a campaign. People wrote to the WHO and demanded that it is included, and it was eventually included. For the first time in history, the WHO recognized aging as, as a part of its working program with some specific even metrics, to reduce the number of care-dependent people by 15 million, to recognize healthy life expectancy is the main measure of the success of healthcare. All kinds of pioneering style was done thanks to our advocacy, thanks to hundreds of people who wrote. But that was one of the best examples I can tell. There could be more. The WHO, let's say, forgets about aging from time to time. But now nobody has the energy, to organize a massive movement. But we can direct our advocacy elsewhere, probably better at and national governments who control most of the funding. So once again, if there's a will, that there is a way. But it is definitely possible, to influence policy through advocacy.
Right now, geographically, where would you say most of the activity for aging research is happening? Is it like in Europe, US, over in other places, Asia?
US still, 15 years ago, it was almost only in the US and maybe a little bit in the UK. Basically, you spend most of the funding. You have the National Institute on Aging with the $1.5 billion funding. So that's where the money comes from. Not just for the US, for the whole world on aging research. So still the US is the dominant country in this regard, but you see a lot of it starting to happen in Asia, in China especially. The Chinese population is rapidly aging, because of the one-child policy. The aging population spikes, so they understand they're in trouble. So I'm beginning to invest in aging research. I just was in China in December. We also organized some kind of committee there for anti-aging. So I see a lot of development coming from Asia. So the United States should better, try harder, to be able to compete. But also in other places, once again, 15 years ago, it was mainly in the US. Now it's in the US and in Asia, and also all over the place, all over the world. There are aging research centers springing up, even in Israel. Almost every university in Israel now has an aging research center or plans an aging research center. That wasn't even 5 years ago. Even 5 years ago, there was no aging research centers in the Israeli universities. So it's going to build up all over the world.
Any questions by anybody else? Some of the people who just joined, or okay. Okay. So yeah, do you have any closing thoughts here, or?
People get involved, please. The longevity months, organize, petition the government. Now the election. I'm very much, I understand most people are from the United States here. So I wonder why isn't that topic on in the elections? Why nobody is talking about aging? As a part of the elections. So the less than a month that you have, let's bring this topic to the elections agenda. That's what we are going to try in Israel. We have elections every 3 months lately, so every time we try to bring this topic to the agenda. It's actually important, at least in democratic societies, you really have to to try to push governments to recognize this topic. But of course, our individual involvement is also very important. You know, we don't have to wait for the government to do anything. Every one of us can study the topic and can get together with others, can discuss, can learn, can live a healthy lifestyle. So the final word of wisdom is, people, let's get the longevity advocacy moving.
There's a couple people that just arrived, and one of them asked a question. They said, "Sorry for being late. What can someone in the humanities do to help?"
Oh, a big deal. You know, I'm also a little bit from the humanities. My PhD is from Science, Technology, Society, but also in the main English literature. I try to be broad-minded. So very important to change public attitude, because a lot of research is blocked simply because people are not ready to face the aging process. And that's a deep psychological, sociological, philosophical even issue. It's not a scientific issue. So if we really want aging research to advance, we really need to change the public attitude. You know, even if some treatment is invented tomorrow, many people simply will not take it. They'll say, you know, aging is natural, we should accept it, with this mindset, people will not fund aging research. So if we really want aging research to advance, we have to change the general public attitude, change public motivation, change, the goal setting. And here humanities plays a major role. Even you see a lot of movies, a lot of popular culture, you know, they present the pursuit of longevity in a negative light. You know, that's all those monsters, all those greedy people who want longevity for themselves. You know, as humanitarians, you really need to present a more positive picture of the future, more egalitarian, you know, more progressive. So that's where humanities can play a major part.
I'll open it up. Oh, sorry.
Why St. George and the Dragon?
What?
Why St. George and the Dragon on your book?
Yeah. Well, you know, it's kind of an allegory. You see all kind of dead people near the dragon. Dragon is, of course, representative of aging. If you know the book by Nick Bostrom, or an essay by Nick Bostrom, Fable of the Dragon Tyrant, where he compares aging with the dragon and gerontologist with, you know, the people fighting the dragon. So it's a little bit coming from there. Maybe it's not the best allegory, but at least, you know, one of the best I know of, you know, when we fight some evil, because right now aging is probably one of the biggest evils there is. But in the second book, the picture is much more peaceful and politically correct. You know, it's the Chinese god of longevity, you know, promoting wisdom and, you know, and kinds of peaceful animals. So all kinds of approaches you can do to improve aging. You know, you can take the fighting stance, you can take the more, you know, more supportive stance, all the things that work.
I, for one, think it's a very good metaphor. I just wanted to hear your description and take on it.
Okay.
Any other questions from people who just joined? Okay. All right. Well, unfortunately, we're just like kind of winding it down. So we thank you for your time, and just another reminder that October is Longevity Month for the ILA, which Ilia is heading up. And yeah, thank you for joining us and spending some time talking to us today.
Thank you for organizing this. Once again, it's very important to have these meetings everywhere and as often as possible. You know, every bit counts. Thanks.
Thank you for your time.
I think something everybody might want to know is, I believe both of your books are freely available on the internet. Is that right?
Yeah, longevityhistory.com. So please go ahead. Also, some of my articles that you can download there.
I think some of your articles were particularly interesting, mostly because they went into different cultures. Like I noticed you wrote articles about Judaism, Christianity, how is it going to be received? So it's definitely, it was very interesting in the humanities standpoint, like how you're able to incorporate both science and kind of like, you know, moral, ethical reasons why people should support longevity research.
Absolutely. Thank you for this. You know, a lot of people get combative against religion, you know, but I think we should embrace everybody. We should get everybody on board. People with religious views, atheistic views, we all have a common goal of health and longevity. So we should really, you know, work.
I thought it could have been valuable because there's a little bit of a cultural gap in some ways. Like, you know, Americans were definitely on board all the time, but you know, like in other cultures, they may have a different, you know, moral or ethical reasoning why they should back longevity research or why they should just, you know, accept the status quo. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Your approach was, you know, you didn't just kind of work on research, you also worked on communities and how they're going to receive this new technology. So that was interesting.
I had some difficulty finding your 2013 book. Is there a reason for that?
No, that's the one 2014. It's all online on this website.
I remember
Longevitize, Essays on the Science, Philosophy, and Politics.
That was my book. You know, I contributed about 10 articles there, but it was my book. It was edited by Franco Cortese. It has a bunch of other issues by all kinds of advocates. It can be found, you know, if you Google it. I think it's on somewhere on Reddit also, or
okay.
I have a random question. In the context of the various things that will be happening for climate change, do you think, like, would you want to live longer through the times that are yet to come? As climate change, things get hotter and hotter, and it seems like might have to worry about having to be on one side of a climate refugee camp.
Well, first of all, if we do want to get through climate change, we do need to improve our resilience. Same for COVID, same for any environmental hazard, any environmental insult that is facing us. We need to get stronger. We need to get more resilient to face all of them. Definitely, we need to improve our environment, but we also need to improve ourselves, you know, to withstand the environment. I don't think see any contradiction between the environmentalist view and pro-longevity view.
Okay.
I think, yeah, there was a section, I think in his link that mentioned, you know, what social implications that would mean, like, you know, is this sustainable, is this moral, is this ethical, and kind of approaches through different philosophies and different religions and ethics. So there was like some regret not being able to read this before this interview, but it's definitely all on the site.
Yes.
All right, so one last call for questions. Okay, I think I'm gonna end the meeting, and thank you again for joining us, and it's really great talking with you.
Thanks again. Thanks everybody. Thanks again for your interest. Bye.
Thank you.